Excellent. Alrighty, welcome to the Ramsey County Board Shop. Today's workshop topic is Safe and Strong University Avenue Initiative. Courtesy reminder that this board workshop is recorded and it is live streamed on Zoom webinar. There will be no votes taken during this workshop. Let's start with an introduction of commissioners and presenters around the table and then the rest of the room. So I am Tara Jevonsing, Commissioner of District 1.
Mary Jo McGuire, Commissioner, District 2.
Lynn Becker, County Manager.
Jeremy Tell, Ramsey County Inspector.
Good morning, John Choi, your County Attorney.
Good morning, Joe Dotsett, Interim Chief of Police, Metro Transit.
Gloria Reyes, Deputy County Manager for the Safety and Justice Service Team.
And Kelly Miller, Ramsey County Commissioner, District 7.
Harrison McMurtry, Commissioner, District 3.
Rafael Ortega, District 5.
Jennifer O'Rourke, Director of Government Relations.
Chris Tolbert, Ramsey County Attorney's Office.
Nadir Abdi, Deputy County Manager, Health and Wellness Services.
Thank you, Public Health Director.
Luis Rosario, Public Health Responder.
Karen Francois, Deputy County Manager, Information and Public Records. Alex, the Chief Financial Officer.
Eric Levinson, Outreach and Response Supervisor with Public Health.
Christine Bendora, Planning Manager, ARI. Whitney Moore, Planning Specialist, ARI. Kathleen, Administrative Planning Assistant. Nancy Pass, Director, Emergency Communication Center.
Jeremy Zoss, Metro Transit Communications.
Adrian Mohammed, Lieutenant, Metro Transit Police.
Kyle Messett, Under Sheriff, Chief of Staff.
Christy Cobbs, Planning Manager, County Manager's Office. Mira Carter, Fire Specialist, Mental Health. Pastor Kevin, Adult Mental Health and Attendant Coordinator. And Walker, Deputy Director of Mental Health.
Mika Thomas, Peter of Mental Health.
Anna, who is Manager of Civil Services.
Okay, and
Ramsey County Commissioner Mike Chong, District 6.
excellent. The Ramsey County, just to let us know as we get started that we are starting a little late today. So I would encourage, if we have questions during our workshop today, to wait until each of our speakers is done with their section, and then we can to be a little bit more disciplined on that. Thank you for that. Just to let us know that Ramsey County is partnering with the Metro Transit Police Department to support the Safe and Strong Initiative, a collaborative effort focused on improving safety and overall well-being on public transit. A Safe and Strong Initiative is a coordinated effort between the Appropriate Response Initiative, Public Health Department, social service providers, Metro Transit, County Attorney's Office, Sheriff's Office, and St. Paul. This initiative is intended to address public safety, health, and well-being concerns along the university corridor. The focus is on supporting individuals experiencing addiction, housing instability, and related social challenges through outreach, harm reduction, connections to services, targeted social challenges through outreach, targeted enforcement and prosecution. Together, concerns will be addressed on and around the Green Line by emphasizing care, connection, community engagement, and public safety. Today, we'll be hearing about this coordinated partnership and the impact on our community.
Great.
All right.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners, and County Manager Becker. Today you will hear about an exciting multi-collaborative effort to address the ongoing challenges along the Green Line and the University Avenue corridor. This initiative brings together law enforcement, public health, and social service partners in a unified approach to improving safety and well-being in our community. You will hear from Metro Transit Chief Dotsett, County Attorney John Choi, St. Paul Police Chief Henry, and Deputy Police Chief Flynn are not able to be here today as they are responding to a community event. Ramsey County Sheriff's Inspector Darren McDonald and our Ramsey County leaders, Public Health Director Amy Karen and Human Services Manager Anna Hewitt. This collaboration has shown us that when we work together across departments and jurisdictions, we can more effectively address the complex and interconnected issues facing our community. By combining enforcement, outreach, harm reduction, and supportive services, we are not just responding to problems, we are building long-term solutions that make our neighborhoods safer and stronger for everyone. Although this initiative is at the beginning stages, we are proud of the meaningful progress that has been made through collaboration, persistence, and shared commitment. Today, we look forward to presenting the outcomes of our work, the lessons we've learned along the way, and how we plan to continue strengthening this partnership to better serve our community. I want to acknowledge the ARI planning team, social services, public health for leaning into this work, providing services, and meeting residents where they are. I want to extend a special thank you to Chief Dotseth and County Attorney John Choi for their innovation and leadership in bringing all of our partners together. As you'll recall from the many neighborhood meetings that have occurred, where residents have voiced their concerns about safety and listened, leaned in, and we all got to work together. Next slide here. This is just our agenda, which I just covered. About the Safe and Strong University Avenue initiative, like I said, it's a collaborative focused intervention model. So it is led by Metro Transit Police Department and with their homeless action team to strengthen the community and well-being in the coordinated efforts. The core focus is early intervention, doing harm reduction in connection to supportive services and public spaces. Our approach is we are out there on Wednesday evenings again, bringing together our partners to provide services and meeting people where they're at. And this diagram really exemplifies all the partners that are part of this entire process and engagement. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Chief Dotseth.
Chair, Commissioners, County Manager, good morning. My name is Joe Dotseth. I'm the interim chief of police at Metro Transit. Just before I get started here, I just want to say thank you all for letting us have this opportunity to talk about this initiative. You know, one of the very unique positions that I have, being the transit chief, is that we serve the entire region. So all summer long, and even before we started this initiative, I've been talking about this project in the region as really a model of success. And as we get going too, I certainly want to thank the leadership of County Attorney Choi and Deputy County Manager Reyes for really getting this project together. Deputy County Manager Reyes said early on in this program, as we're going through all these initiatives and we sit through all these meetings about, you know, theory and plans, which is fantastic to do, right? But we came up with a plan early on of we need to do something. As I present this information, do we solve every single problem? Absolutely not. But I can guarantee you that we did something this summer. We impacted safety along University Avenue, and we certainly impacted the quality of safety on the Metro Transit system. So not sure. There's a video I'd like to play just real quick. It's a 2-minute clip. Officer Compline of our homeless action team. It really encompasses the work of this initiative and the work of the transit police.
Just give me a minute here.
Metro Transit is teaming up with law enforcement and social service providers to try to clean up St. Paul's light rail. It's part of an ongoing effort to make the Green Line on University Avenue safer after incidents of violent crime and drug use over the years. David Schubman explains what will be different on the trains this summer.
How are ya?
She's got the uniform, but Kat Compline isn't your typical cop.
Are you coming for resources?
She's part of Metro Transit's homeless action team.
We are out there trying to help those that are utilizing shelter on our system and trying to get them into shelter, into treatment. 30 days? Food, water, shelter.
It's proactive work, riding the trains, reaching those who need the help where they are. Kat says her team's moved more than 550 people into housing since 2018.
And then let's get you connected with benefits.
They partner with Ramsey County resource providers, like for this outreach effort Wednesday off University Avenue. This health-centered approach to safety is now being adopted by Metro Transit Police at large to improve conditions on the Green Line. Transit Police will be working with 7 City of St. Paul and Ramsey County agencies, including law enforcement, health services, and the county attorney.
And everybody has been doing this work separately. This effort brings us all together in a much more organized approach.
People who are struggling, people who are causing a disturbance, you know, there's law enforcement there, but there's also, you know, an opportunity for us to get to the root causes of what's occurring on the Metro Green Line.
Metro Transit's interim police chief says riders can expect to see more officers as part of a new Hamlin Midway beat. But the interagency collaboration is an acknowledgement that cops aren't the only answer.
We need to figure out ways to actually change the behavior. And we have limitations about who can be jailed, who can be incarcerated.
In St. Paul, David Schubman, WCCO News.
Transit police say serious crime on trains and buses is relatively low and hasn't changed. The number of riders per day has stayed more or less steady in the last year.
The serious crime on the train system is very low. And in fact, it's decreasing dramatically. So year to date, we're at about 11% decrease of serious crime. Every quarter I do a presentation to the Met Council where we compare also like seasonality from like quarter to quarter. And quarter to quarter, this year compared to last year, we're down 21%. And our officer activity out on the system is up by 129%. That means our officers are out there more visible and active than ever. And that video of Officer Compline on the homeless action team just encapsulates everything that the transit police does. I came to the transit police in 2004 and I've never looked back. Like the work that we do in the community on the front lines is very, very important. Lieutenant Muhammad is with me today and the work that she does with the homeless action team, all of the work that our cops do. We talked about reinstituting the beat model of policing at Metro Transit. We have a Hamlin Midway beat. We're actually launching starting in January 3rd, where we'll have the return of the downtown St. Paul beat, which is fantastic. And so really getting back to beat policing and being active, that's what this was initiative about. We started with 3 areas of program focus, right? Focus enforcement. So that with us in the great partnership that we have with the St. Paul Police and the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office, that's one avenue of this program, focused enforcement. We know that, and you'll see some of the numbers later, that this operation did not just become an enforcement operation. The second component of this, connecting those to services in our region is so, so important. That's the work of our homeless action team. That's the work of everybody in Ramsey County in public health. That's the work with social justice, all the departments that we're working with. That component is really what this initiative turned into, us being visible in the community on the front lines, working to get people the help that they truly need. And then thanks to the leadership of County Attorney Choi, really having, essentially, we still need to work on it. We're gonna talk more about that of creating a special docket for when crimes are occurring on the transit system that they can get flagged either so Judge Carey or the judges can work on that and understand that there's a different need for that. So that's the 3 areas of program focus that we really started working on there, and all the partners with Ramsey County, St. Paul Office of Neighborhood Safety and the city of St. Paul. It was a great initiative in the summer. This photo is a very powerful photo. This was at our press release in May when we launched the initiative. And you don't just launch an initiative like this, right? There's a lot of meeting that goes into this, a lot of planning that goes into all of this work to come together. So everybody in that photo right there is certainly invested in what we were doing this summer. And this is a press release that our PAO, Jeremy Zoss, put out, really capturing what we're trying to do at Metro Transit Police is like tell more of our story, right? There's a lot of really good things happening at Metro Transit and the police department. We need to share that story. And this photo and this initiative, when I look at it, it just showcases the collaborative effort that this police department has with our partners in the region. We talked about that collaboration between police, service providers and prosecutors. Our homeless action team started in 2018 when then Chief Harrington was here. It's award winning. The work that they do out on the system, connecting people to services, being that frontline support, it's unbelievable. Hear people that'll come up to the table today to present that was out there this summer with the team, and they changed people's lives. There's no question about it. And that team really is a model that we would like to help other agencies implement as well. But the homeless action team and that work being out there, they're at University in Dale for the majority of the summer, but they also moved down to Union Snelling and everywhere along the corridor. That bus you'll actually see there, it's an older Metro Transit bus that we retrofitted. People see that bus in the community and they gravitate towards it so they can get connected to services. It's a big deal. I talk a lot about, sorry. I talk a lot about this whole community approach to public safety. I believe in it very much. That's what this initiative is. At Metro Transit and the Met Council, we have what we call our Safety Security Action Plan. That has 42 action items that really has changed crime and how the system itself is being viewed, I feel, by the public. It's a very detailed plan. That Safety Security Action Plan is a whole community approach to public safety. So police alone cannot solve all these problems. And all of us working together, we all want the same thing, right? But all of us working together in a much more collaborative effort, that whole community approach to public safety, that's what this initiative was. Policing as a service, you saw it in the video of Officer Compline. You'll see it, I'm sure, as the commissioners you hear from from the people in your communities. The transit police, we're out there arresting, issuing citations, but providing a service through our riders and being visible to the workers in the communities. That's what we do, we're providing a service. That's why we're going back to the beat model of policing, getting our officers embedded into the community so they're connected with our community members, trying to really solve long-term problems, and then being visibly present. Certainly going to a lot of community meetings along the corridor this summer, and we're hearing feedback here on a routine basis that the system is better. We're seeing more transit police out there. We want to be visible. That's the first step of all of this, right? We need to be present. We need to be visible, and our team is extremely committed to ensuring that the Green Line is safe and secure. I love that quote. We continue to, we continue to show up, and so do they. And that happens. You'll see people that come back out when they know the hat team is out there, we're out there to just build those connections. These are some of the stats here. I didn't want this to be a whole approach with stats on there, but this is some of the impact that our hat team did. So they had 1,312 hat contacts. You can see how many people we helped get into shelters. Bennett referrals is a really big thing. Thanks to Ramsey County, we had workers out there with actual laptops to connect people to services. So there's no lag time or real, like there's a service center essentially is one of the one they're doing, which was fantastic. And the work back to us providing a service and how important it is to be visible in the community. These officer patrol numbers up there, we think about 5,633 directed patrols for that time period. That's our officers being out there active, calling stuff out on the radio. They're in there. That is a huge number of directed patrol in that area. And then the amount of officer initiated calls, I talk about this throughout the region. Our officers drive our calls for service numbers. They drive our crime numbers too. When you think about serious crime being very low on the system, really the top 3 offenses on the system are smoking, trespass, and vandalism. Well, we drive those numbers, right? So because we're out there issuing citations, if people are smoking on the system, if they're trespassing on the system. So these officer initiated calls for service, you can see that up there in that bar chart there. Generally, this is the way it's across the system. Our officers account for about 90% of all the calls for service, at least in this initiative. I'd have to go back and look at the overall numbers. It's certainly over half, right? We're driving the numbers on the system. You can see, like I mentioned earlier, we didn't have a larger number of arrests. I think early on when we started this initiative, I thought we'd have more arrests on there. But when people saw us out there, they came to us more to connect to services. And a lot of these arrests on here, while some of these arrests go to the county attorney's office on maybe the felony and gross misdemeanor level, we do have a lot of the lower level offenses that go to the city attorney's office, which they were a great partner to work on to this center. And then again, that's our calls for service breakdown with the slide here. Certainly lessons learned, right? Like, did we solve every single problem? No, we didn't. But back to, again, the words of the Deputy County Manager Reyes, we wanted to do something, we did something. We were visible. We got a lot of, I feel like positive media attention for being out in the community. And again, hopefully you heard from residents and community members that we were out there doing stuff. I'm hearing that. We have 2 commands, West Command, which is everything on the west side of the river, and East Command on this side of the river. While serious crime is down in the system, crime in East Command, which essentially is everything in Ramsey County, that's down as well. Serious crime is down by 9%. And our proactive officer work is up extremely high. I'm just looking at an enforcement number here from our stats. Our enforcement numbers on the system for East Command are up almost 50%. So again, the officers are out there being active, doing stuff. And this photo again of the homeless action team, this is what they do every day that they're on the system, making connections with community members and really trying to bridge that gap. Certainly, I feel like this initiative as well was just a better collaboration between police and public health. Again, police can want me the all solving problem, everything in the communities certainly can be an important factor of getting people to the services, making that first point of contact. But even back to our safety and security action plan in the transit system, for a long time in Metro Transit, the police were the only avenue for controlling the system. Is that the best model? I think the whole community approach to public safety with all of us being out there is a much better model. And that's what we're trying to do with this work. And I think that there's a framework. There's certainly work to do, but I think there's a framework that we can build upon for future success. Some lessons learned, certainly know that we need a single point person to lead and collaborate with each agency. I think as we went into this, we had some larger meetings, which we had some great discussion, but back to, and this is part of what we're, thinking about what's next, right? We know what's next is we need to have a single point person for each organization and really take that responsibility. You gotta have a weekly meeting, you gotta keep meeting and talking about it and have some action steps. And for our team, thanks to the work of Lieutenant Mohammed, she's gonna be our single point person to lead and collaborate on this initiative moving forward. We need more time too. An initiative for, 4 months, that's great, but we need more time. We need more time working together, building those relationships that are so important in building those systems. We're also gonna be working on a pilot project with Director Karen about really trying to go out and identify some of our most frequent users that need help on the system. And with Director Karen's team and Lieutenant Mohammed, we're gonna start working on identifying 5 or 10 people and go out there, and I know it sounds kind of cliche, but like change their lives. And I feel like we can do it because our hat team has done it. They do it on a daily basis. I just want to work on that and really find those point people to do on that. We're gonna be working with the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office in St. Paul on, what's the next steps on this initiative, what this looks like. And I feel like this is the new norm that we want to establish between police and public safety. And again, this team has been fantastic. Everybody in this room, most everybody in this room was out all summer long on the front lines working. And the work with the sheriff's office, thanks for the inspector being here. I know Chief Henry couldn't be here, but I talk to him on a regular basis. Our working relationship with the St. Paul Police Department and the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office has never been better. But we know that we need to work more collaboratively, more point people on these projects, but this is gonna be our new norm of what these initiatives look like.
I'm gonna pause and see if, I know I've got a couple of questions, but, Commissioner McMurtry and then Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chief, for providing these updates. I know, at least for my district, which is along Snelling and University, this is a top issue. There's so many residents as we're out in the community, because they, a number of them, that they rely on public transit, they rely on the Green Line, they want to be able to use it and to be safe on the Green Line. So it's great to see this initiative, come into existence and that you're seeing some results. A couple of questions I just wanted some clarification on. When you talk about the beat in Hamlin Midway, has that already been implemented or is that something that you all are planning to implement?
Chair Commissioner, we have implemented it.
Okay.
So there's a Hammer Midway beat right now. We've been doing, shameless plug here, follow our social media posts, but our social media on there has been highlighting, thanks to the work of our PIO, Jeremy Zoss. So we've highlighted the beat on there. We probably need to do a better job of making sure everybody knows about that, but the beat has been active in that area. And when every week we meet about stats and we see that the proactive work that the officers are doing there in that area, it's definitely making an impact in the area.
That's fantastic. And you spoke to the decrease in serious crime of 9% decrease. Do you have specifics around? Cause I'm thinking, some areas that we know have been really active, whether it's University in Dale or University in Snelling. Do you have any stats around whether we've seen a decrease in crime in those specific areas?
Chair Commissioner, we've definitely seen a decrease in crime at University and Snelling in the entire Midway area. I would say along the whole corridor, we've seen a decrease in that. So that's what our overall numbers say. I'm looking at, we call them, it was like the old part 1 crimes. We call them kind of the serious crimes on the system, right? So one of the biggest numbers we have is this intimidation and this simple assault. So what's really driving even the crime numbers are the threats of violence or a simple assault. So like, again, these large scale things that happen, we don't want those to happen, but the majority of the serious crime are minor assaults.
Okay, that's helpful. And just as a follow-up to this, I'd love to get kind of the specific percentage of how much we've seen a decrease, especially at the University and Snelling intersection. One other question, how much of your work is centered around kind of proactively kind of thinking of some of the potential challenges? I'm thinking specifically University of Snelling and the CVS. We know that there is a possibility through City Council that there's going to be action to demolish that CVS. Has there been any effort to start thinking of, all right, if that happens, what approaches do we need to take to ensure that we have safety around that specific intersection?
Chair Commissioner, great question. You know, I think it starts with us working with the St. Paul Police Department in that area as well, which we work with all the Westford District staff there. So, you know, I think one of the unique things about, you know, being being the transit chief and even working at transit, like, we're always proactively thinking about this stuff. Like, we don't wait for problems just to come to us. And we're just kind of like relaunching a lot of this proactive measures to start thinking about that, because if we wait for that problem to occur, we're gonna lose control of that area. I'm certainly aware of the concerns that have been around that area, and us being proactive, back to the slides, us being visible, first step, and then just keep coming to all these meetings and having these conversations, you know, that we can try to come up with some solutions on that, and then we'll follow up on the decreased university stuff.
Great, I appreciate that, and I think for all the other partners in the room as well, that's something to start thinking about as well, as they, you know, potentially get rid of that nuisance at that corner. We know that there's not gonna be an immediate change of a new, you know, housing or whatever to go in that space, and so to ensure that that corridor remains safe, to start thinking now of what we can do proactively to ensure that safety. One last question, and then I'll hand it over to other colleagues. I wanted to ask about the public health, Ramsey County Public Health relationship. I know that you have with your HAT team, their outreach team is out there, and public health is a part of that. Knowing that we have our own care van, mobile unit, do we utilize that? And maybe this is Director Karen can address this as well. Do we utilize that when we're out on the beat with you all? So as you're interacting with residents, that we have, you know, a resource right there that they can also kind of leverage.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, sure.
So they have not been out there, with the van. But there has been conversations around how do we, best utilize our van in that location, and I think we can have a further conversation when Director, Karen comes up. But we do utilize the HAT van quite a bit, like, you know, we are, in partnership with that, so, yeah.
Right. I'm glad, well, that's helpful. I'm glad that at least that's in talks, and hope that we can also incorporate that incredible resource that we have here at the county as well.
I think, yeah, and also just to point, one of the challenges that we found this summer was, we spent a lot of time in the Wendy's parking lot. And which brings in a lot of people, right? And so, working with the business owners and getting permission to have the resources there. And so that it wasn't always, you know, welcomed. And so, you know, bringing another van would cause another, so it is something we have to consider and work with those business owners to make sure that our presence is welcomed. Yeah.
Commissioner Shaw.
Chief, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being so collaborative on this and having those weekly meetings to work through this. I think this is exactly what so many in the community have been asking for, is just some presence that's on the light rail. And your success is deeply integrated into the success of our entire transit system and our future transit systems. For this, are you staffed here 24 hours or like at all during the operations of the train, or what does staffing look like for this?
Chair Commissioner, so overall, we're staffed 24/7, 365, right? So this initiative specific to Safe and Strong, you know, it was kind of geared towards detailed dates. So if the HAT detail was out on Wednesdays, but still the initiative overall with the beats out there, it's still an initiative that we were cognizant of the entire summer. So it just, we named this with this beat, but 24/7, 365 coverage, you know, just real quick on staffing, we have, you know, 2 commands. We have a command in Minneapolis and then a command over here. And, you know, our staffing numbers are coming back fantastically. We're on track to hire 45 people this year. I think, I just looked the numbers today, I think we're at 42, a couple more CSOs there. So as we get more staff and more police officers and community service officers on board, there's gonna be even more presence out on the system too.
And then I wanted to touch a little bit more about identifying folks who the HAT team are in touch with more frequently, where you'll be working to identify several of those people. This sounds very similar to familiar faces too. Is that a part of that, or is this something that's similar? And are you pursuing additional funds for this part of the initiative at all?
So Chair Commissioner, no additional funds. But I think part of what we're trying to do with all of these staffing and these initiatives we're doing, no additional funds. You know, I really thank our patrol captain, Captain Ahmed, who could be here today, of really shifting our resources and our priorities around to make things work without asking for any more money, right? And then focusing on recruiting to get more staff in the door. Is the HAT team is going to do with Director Karen's office similar to familiar faces? Maybe a little bit, right? But also back to, you know, do we follow up with them? I know we're on all these meetings together, we have those conversations. I think there's part of it, but we also want to, quite frankly, be aggressive to start coming up with some initiatives ourselves to start making some progress on some stuff. So I think there's probably going to be some overlapping to that, but we're really focusing on, you know, who are the people right now on the transit system that need help. And I think familiar faces is more of a, you know, by citywide regional thing, still important to do, but our focus right now is on the train.
Commissioner McGuire, oh, sorry.
Thank you. Oh,
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was just gonna respond to that. I think, one of the things that I've talked to some of the DCMs about as the next stage is like more collaboration is, we see a lot of social service people in the room too, but, we need the housing stability piece, which would then be that connection to, you know, like, okay, you've got your immediate support, now how do we get you to the next things that you need? So these are part of the, while we are working very collaboratively with our partners as an organization, we have to kind of do our homework to be able to show up in a room for the public safety partners as one Ramsey County. So I think we have to, you know, create kind of that functional team around how we are dealing with people who are housing unstable, maybe have mental health issues along the Green Line. And then what does that look like for Ramsey County to sit in a room weekly with that, so that like Chief Dostaf and the St. Paul police don't have to navigate that inside of us, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
And then just to follow up on that too, are you also asking folks if they have served in the military or if they're veterans?
Chair, Commissioner, I don't know if we're specifically asking that question. I know we, you know, I will follow up on that.
Yeah.
It's something that we certainly can, because if there's other services for that. The HAT team makes so many connections when they're out there. I'm sure that's one of the questions that we have. Is it on the form? I don't know, but we'll follow up, and it's a good suggestion. And if it's not, well, then we'll add that to them.
Okay, Commissioner McGuire.
thanks, Madam Chair. This is so exciting. Thanks everyone in the room. Thanks to you for doing this great work. We all have we all had such high hopes for the Green Line, and we continue to have them. And it's just great to hear that we're continuing to work on making it safe for everyone to feel that they want to be riding this. And so thank you for that work. A few of us were just in Portland for our transit conference, our mobility conference. And I rode a lot of trains there. One morning we were getting on and I felt completely safe. And I don't ride the trains here because it doesn't come out to where I'm at, but I want to start making plans to ride this train. And I think and I'm sure I'll feel safe. But when we were on the train, when I was on the train out there, we were at a stop and there were 6 officers and they had their neon jackets. I think they were officers. They might have been transit police or just transit resource people. I'm not sure what they were, but they had the neon, and 6 of them got on the train, rode a few stops, and then they got off the train all together, and then we and they helped, they answered questions, you know, because we were wondering if we were on the right train and everything. And they were it was so comforting and it was really great. And I said, so what are you doing here? Because, you know, we're looking at Green Line. And they said, well, we're just here as resource officers and just making sure that people, you know where they're going and getting it. I mean, it was a very, very visible presence though, like in these neon jackets and stuff. So are we doing stuff like that too? I mean, I just don't know what we're doing on Green Line because I'm not always riding it, or I'm not riding it. So just give me some examples of what you're doing. And I loved that I saw that going on there. And they're, of course, you know, wanting to make sure that everybody's safe on their lines as well. everybody.
Chair, Commissioner, a couple examples, one thing I'll just share real quick is, every month I sit on a call with all the transit police chiefs
Yeah.
in the entire country. So we're constantly sharing, there's similarities from each system out there. And this visibility approach, it's a lot of what our safety security action plan is.
Yeah.
So not just the police officers being out there, you saw in the video, our trip agents that are in their uniforms. And as we expand that program, right, here are more trip agents, you're gonna see more trip agents out there
I love
on the system. Not just checking fares, but wayfinding and being that visible
Yeah.
presence. At the end of this month,
Really
we had
nice.
a press conference last week that good attention about really what our winter safety plan is. We have a new vendor for supplemental security coming out at the end of the month. They're gonna be at more locations along the Green Line as well. So really starting this first week of December, if you go on the system right now, you're definitely gonna see more trip agents and police officers out there, but you're gonna see security at the Dale station, at the Snelling station, visible there almost the entire day. So
We
like,
love it.
there is that, back to that presence model, we
Yeah.
know when we're on board the system. And then we also need to tell that, because we're constantly, dealing with the perception issue of what's going on, right? I sit on a committee in downtown Minneapolis, the Downtown Safety Committee, and we're sitting in conversations like, what is the perception of safety downtown Minneapolis? What's the perception of safety downtown St. Paul? Like, I think there's a lot of safety initiatives going on. We need to talk about these initiatives,
Right,
really
I
have the
think so.
public get out there and start understanding. If you get on a train, you're likely gonna see presence. The trains are are they perfect? By no means, but they are much better than they were a year ago, and they're getting better every day. There's live video on the system that we have people watching all the time too, so like, people are watching what's going on in the transit system, so.
I
Thank you
hate,
so
I hate, I do know,
I know
looking
you
at
have to
time,
cut, sorry,
I have to
yeah.
keep going, but Commissioner Miller.
It's fine, I can follow up.
Okay, let's keep
Yeah.
rolling.
Sorry, yeah.
You wanna go?
Yeah, so, Madam Chair and, members of the board, thank you for convening this workshop and the opportunity to talk about the collaboration that's been happening. And I first want to just call out, our chief, Joe Gotzat, for his, real leadership in wanting to work with, people over here on the East Metro and Ramsey County. And I think, one of the things that we could do for the entire system is actually show the proof of concept, which is if we can truly collaborate together, work outside of silos and agencies, and pull together this really comprehensive strategy. I think we can make a difference for the entire, light rail system. And I think we're, off to a really good start, but I want to make sure that all of you understand that this work is just beginning. I really believe that. We're just at the start of all of this. And it will take further, work and collaboration. I love what the county manager talked about trying to bring together other parts of the things that are like around, homelessness and housing, all that thing. The comprehensive strategy was really critical. And so, we'll continue to be, a really active partner in all of this and bringing people, to the table and working collaboratively. And I think, Joe has already talked a little bit about some of the preliminary results that we're seeing right now. So as the prosecutor, and someone had alluded to this, so I don't see all of the quality of life cases. In fact, the city attorney will handle most of them. But this is just, I wanted to show you is just some of the, like the cases that we're receiving. So since we started tracking, these cases since about October of 2024. And so we have a protocol that we asked the Metro Transit Police, the St. Paul Police Department, and the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. And I also think it's a real positive that, that the sheriff was able to get an appropriation with the legislature to focus on some security issues around the state capitol. But that will very much include the light rail corridor. And I just really appreciate, his spirit in wanting to be a part of these solutions about making sure that we are making the train safe, in St. Paul and along the East Metro. So as these cases have come in, because we track them, because there's a code that says they're university corridor cases, and that signals to us that we should be thinking about the livability issues, right? So we should be thinking about, should we be asking the judge for like a stay away order, some geographic, thing? And so in a lot of these cases that come in, they're gonna be like the lower level cases. And so there's not gonna be like jail or incarceration. And I'm so glad that we all recognize that that's not the solution. But for some people, it's going to be. And I think as we take the next phase of all of this and thinking about those that actually are in the jail, we need to focus on using that time wisely so that when we have reentry back into the community, that we're really focused on some of those health outcomes and doing the things that we need to do work on while they're in the jail, whether it's just for a 24-hour period or maybe a little bit longer. Those are really important conversations, and we're really lucky because we have some really innovative and collaborative judges who recognize that they can really help us move the needle around some of these livability issues. So since the third quarter of 2024, we've been tracking these cases, and as you can see, I think you're going to see continued spikes because typically what happens in terms of cases that come to my office, there might be like an intensive effort that police might be doing along the corridor, and then you're going to see that spike. So certainly we saw that spike in 2025, and if we just go to the next slide. These are the cases that have come to us. Again, these are all felonies, right? So we have some of the most serious crimes like the murder, et cetera, but they're the lowest. For us, the biggest livability crime that comes to us would be the drug possession and sale. And so we are really focused on trying to figure out like, who are these people and what can we do to stop the behavior, right? So part of that is part of the court aspect, but also everything that happens before. So these are the cases that in which they were submitted. There was an arrest, a case was presented to us, but there's a lot of work that happens where I hopefully never have to see it. And that's the work that you're going to hear about from the HAT team, our public health. All of that work is really critical. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to see these cases. I don't want these things coming here because we're not necessarily going to move the needle on this unless we have that really coordinated strategy around the proactive piece of it, and then also on thinking about the reentry. So if they're in jail for 24 hours or whatever time period it is, that we're really getting to work during that period. And I think that one of the most critical partners in all of this will be the sheriff. And I'm so glad that he is so committed to wanting to focus on the Safe and Strong initiative. And so if we just go to the next slide real quick. These are the referrals. So it's not just the Metro Transit Police, it's also St. Paul Police that are making the referrals to our office. And if you just go to the next slide. So the charging rate here is it's probably over average. So it's 72%. Typically our charging rate is somewhere between 55 to 65% on everything. And so clearly there's been a priority around making sure that these cases get charged, working with investigators. And then if we go to the next slide, this is really important data about the racial demographics of who's coming to my office. And the reason why I say it's really important data is because it really needs to inform our strategies moving forward, right? So we need to be thinking about how to engage certain communities, about solutions, making sure that communities are at the table about what kind of solutions they would like to see. And believe me, we have heard a handful. And I want to thank Commissioner Rena Moran, who did the engagement around University and Dale. And certainly there's been a lot of engagement on Snelling and University about the solutions that are needed, and the community is just desperate for these solutions. And we also recognize that just taking care of the light rail trains is just one piece of it, because if we take care of that, it's just going to go out into the neighborhoods, right? And so that's why I think the St. Paul Police Department and all of the various strategies are just that comprehensive nature is just really, really critical. But this data can really inform, I think, the way that we think about this, because, and again, I want to give credit to our sheriff with the CAT team approach that he had around carjacking and auto thefts. We had similar data like this. In fact, it was even more African-Americans centric. And we relied very heavily on partnerships with the African-American Leadership Council and the Black Ministerial Alliance. And I think that's some of the, in terms of moving forward and how we engage with some of the proactive strategies, we really need to be mindful of that. So if we can just go to the next slide, this is just a breakdown around gender. And so I'll just stop and stand for any questions and cede my time to the sheriff.
Commissioner McMurtry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate this update, County Attorney. Can we go back to the demographics slide real quick? Really appreciate this breakdown and your explanation of how we have to use this data to really get specific in the solutions. With the Black African American piece, I know that you mentioned working with some organizations like the Black Ministerial Alliance. Within that, do we have this aggregated data of like, is this all Black African Americans or is this also African immigrants as well? Because just thinking of the approach will be different for each group. So do we have that data for this?
I don't know that we would. I'll look into it. But this data would come from how it's reported by the police. And typically they're just gonna check that box. They're not gonna do that. So if they're not doing it, we're not gonna be able to know that. But I think that raises a good point to make sure that we're really thinking about that. And I say those partners in terms of the African American Leadership Council and the Black Ministerial Alliance. That was just for the project related to carjacking and auto thefts, right? So it doesn't mean that that's the group that's best poised to help with this crowd, because I think there's other things going on here. So when we deal with the carjackings, what we found is that we had young people. It was young teens that were doing this. And what we found were parents who were desperate for help, but they weren't struggling from addiction or mental health issues. They just needed help basically being a parent to like teenagers, and that's really hard, right? And so we met them with services and supports. In this context, what we're gonna see is a really strong theme of drugs, addiction, and mental health issues. And then the other things that surround that, homelessness, all of those things. And so that's why I think, especially for this, a really broader, comprehensive approach that activates the levers in the county and the city, working together in the courts as well, can really make a difference around this.
To follow up with Commissioner McMurtry's question, do we know if these are Ramsey County residents? I mean, as they're being charged, do we know if they're coming from suburbs or
Right.
other counties or?
I think we could probably look for that data because we would have, if they were presented to us, they figured out a way to get the address
Yeah.
of the person. So yeah, we could find out like where, that would be an interesting thought. And another thought, and Joe talked about this in his earlier slides, he talked about one of our values or strategic pillars, right? One of our pillars is, and this is where I think the next iteration of this work will go, is around this concept around focused deterrence. And that is an evidence-based law enforcement strategy that has been proven to work around gun violence, especially. It's also been proven to work around dealing with hotspots related to drug dealing, et cetera. And that concept, what it means is that it's a very specific and targeted type of enforcement. Instead of the model of policing that you just saturate an area and you just arrest every person that you can think of, or you question every person that you can, that's obviously not the value here in Ramsey County. The value is that we want to specifically look at who are the frequent utilizers, who are the people that are coming into the system the most, right? And then think about a way to have the community and the police together, which I think is so critical, sending this message in a very custom way to this individual that your behavior and your activities are causing problems for the larger community. And that message is being delivered by our community. And they're saying that we're with the police, that if we want you to take this first door, which is about services and supports, and we'll go with public health and work with the community navigator here who wants to help you navigate these issues. Now, that's not an easy thing because a lot of, especially if you're dealing with addiction and mental health, that's sometimes it feels like a very impossible task. And the way to get through that is just to keep trying, right? And sometimes you keep failing, but you keep trying and eventually you can make a difference, I think, in a very deliberate way. And then the second part of it is that if the behavior doesn't change, right, then we need to use the criminal legal system in all of its force to reckon with that so that we can change that behavior. And of course, if in those instances, someone might get arrested, and if we can get them to the jail, and if we can do some good things in that time period, sometimes that's what it's going to take. What I see with addiction is that you see people cycling through over and over and over again, and at some point something happens. They hit rock bottom, or somehow a loved one gets through to them. And that will be a part of our strategy moving forward too, is like trying to map out who are these people and who are their families, and how can we get them engaged to be a part of the solution. And so we'll continue to kind of develop that, work on that, but that focused deterrence strategy has proven to work across this country. And we're really committed to wanting to try that here locally, and hopefully within about a year, I'd love to be able to talk about some great stories and also some good data that shows that some of the repeat behavior for some of these individuals has stopped. And so ultimately, that's the goal.
I know looking at the time, but I do want to highlight and underscore my, appreciation as somebody who's worked in behavioral health, substance use disorder, and advocating for individuals who are living with, living in this cycle, right? That to be able to, I appreciate the statistics that you showed that had one, addressing symptoms of addiction and mental health appropriately with a public health and social service response, but when there is dangerous behavior, the rate of being able to address that to keep it safe for those individuals and everybody else, so that it's a combined approach. And I think that that is what community is asking for, to make sure that we're creating safe spaces, but also wrapping around individuals. Because even if arrest and a criminal approach is taken, most of those folks are going to be returned back into community, into our community. And so how do we make sure to take that interruption and intercept as a positive intervention towards their journey towards better decisions? So I really appreciate all that you're describing here.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, because I think that's so important as a value that as elected officials who are on this table, that we are talking about this to our constituents, and it's really an and, it's not an or. And I think that's where we have gone wrong in our past, where when we look at these things as an or, that if you do this, it'll be at the expense of that, right? And so this value about trying to have that balanced approach and recognizing that we need to just have all of our tools available so that we can get better outcomes for the people who are suffering from addiction and mental health, and also for our community that we've heard so loud and clear at the people that are suffering around Dale and University and Snelling University in
And
downtown as well.
I appreciate that. And I will say that to hear as a county commissioner to come in as a new commissioner, to hear from our law enforcement saying, we need more social service and public health response, and from our public health saying, and we need safe streets, and from our county attorney saying, and we're gonna work with the courts to make sure appropriate approaches are coming in. So we're at a very unique moment in time. And to reiterate what Commissioner McGuire had said, when we were at the Impact Conference, routinely, we walked into what were supposed to be the most innovative panels that were being described, and we were leaps and bounds ahead of what was being presented. So kudos to you. With that, we should probably keep moving forward.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I just want to say that I'm chairing the city county court, but I think we're gonna delay that till
Yes,
about
I've already told them that
12:15.
we're running late.
Okay,
Yeah,
so just wanted to let
we
you know.
really
Oh,
wanna
that's
hear from
wonderful.
the public
Thank you.
health and social services team.
So don't worry if you're on that meeting, we're chairing it, but we know we're running late, so. wanted to
Oh,
let you know.
fantastic. Thank you.
Sounds good. Madam Chair, Board, I am Jerry McDowell. I'm an inspector with the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. Public safety, along with our light rail, bus system, and capital area transit corridor, requires a response far bigger than any agency. This work led by the Metro Transit Police and strengthened by unified partnership with the St. Paul Police Department, the Minnesota State Patrol, the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office, and the Ramsey County Attorney's Office, which helps support outcomes that balance accountability and long-term stability. Together, we are confronting the intersection of homelessness, untreated mental illness, and the opioid crisis. And we recognize a difficult truth. When enforcement is the only tool, it can unintentionally push vulnerable individuals into surrounding neighborhoods. A stronger, more caring Ramsey County means we do not face this alone. We move forward together with county and community service providers, outreach teams, public health partners, and those working every day to offer shelter, treatment, and support. Real progress demands coordination, compassion, and real pathways to help. We also understand the impact this crisis has on our neighborhoods. When vulnerable individuals are just displaced from the light rail into nearby blocks. Families feel it, businesses feel it, and community confidence can suffer. Residents deserve to feel safe walking to school, opening their shops, or simply stepping outside their front doors. Transit safety is neighborhood safety. Our work must protect both the people struggling in crisis and the communities trying to thrive around them. Our shared mission with Metro Transit Police as the lead agency and all of us standing together is clear. Keep people safe, to keep people alive, and ensure no one is forgotten, not on the light rail, not on our bus stops, and not in our neighborhoods. Thank you. And I just also want to add, I am the lead inspector of the Capital Vitality Project that we just got $3 million from the Capitol. I'm in weekly talks with Minnesota State Patrol. They are very eager to join us at the table.
Oh,
to work
excellent.
towards us.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great.
Alright. Okay, now we can transition out. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Can I
much.
just say one thing while we're
Yes.
position?
Yes.
Have people.
Go ahead.
I think, I'm not gonna miss any chance to kind of talk about our property tax base, and there's a connection here too.
There's a chair.
As we work on these initiatives and do a better job, many of you are very familiar with, there's a significant economic development project by Bill McGuire along the, near the stadium, which, would benefit our city and our county. And so I just want to keep making sure that people see the connections between the deep social service and public safety work we have to do, and also what ends up happening, helping our property tax base. Like, these are not apart from each other. They actually are very much connected. So,
Yes.
All right, we'll go ahead and start with Director Amy Karen.
All right, well, good. I looked at the time, 12:01, so good afternoon. Chair, Commissioners, County Manager. As you've heard, well, I just want to say first, thank you to our partners for the accolades to public health and our public health responders doing the work out there. I just have a couple brief slides, just letting you know what we have. 2 public health responders as part of the Appropriate Response Initiative that supports the HAT detail. And over the last spring and summer, as our presenters have told you, this has been a short time. This has been a pilot project, and we really want to emphasize that we do need more time. I think we've made some really great strides out there, and I think we can do a whole lot more here. And really where public health is coming from is mostly from a harm reduction standpoint. I know that can be kind of controversial sometimes amongst people, but it really is, we're not feeding into people's drug habits. We're really trying to promote things like less infectious disease out there and trying to prevent some outbreaks and just taking care of our residents. They're in really tough spots. I've been out there with the chief and with our public health responders out there to see it myself, and it's horrible what people are going through. So really we're trying to, this initiative really allows us to have some visibility out there too as public health responders and foster that community trust, maintaining consistency and compassion in these public spaces. We feel like this is our lane here, and hopefully we can get to a point, been talking with Chief here more recently, where we kind of get into more of a case management type situation with some of the people that we're having regular contacts with, and really trying to move and start small. Okay, our next slide.
I just wanted to ask a
yeah.
question, which was going back to Commissioner McMurtry's earlier question about the buses. And I'm just thinking, as we head into winter, the idea of having a warm space where you could have a consult and perhaps do some of that. I'm just wondering how are we thinking about utilizing that? And are we considering expanding towards more than 2 public health responders? I mean, I'm just curious as to how much, I mean, I'm excited to see this. I know it's beginning, we're excited, which is why we want to encourage this. But I'm curious.
Yeah, sure. Chair, yes, we have been in discussions about using our caravan in that situation, and DCM Ray has brought up the point where one of our barriers is actually being able to where to park it, the spot. And I think that'll be some more community education, working with our business owners, things like that. And just connected, we have more recently been bringing it out to the Pig's Eye encampment, so that we can have a nurse practitioner out there and a clean space for our nurses to work with people, mostly on wound care and things like that, immediate things that people need. Would love to expand that also.
Yeah, and I think with the winter, you know, this is gonna have to tie directly into our warming space sort of partnerships that we'll be rolling out here before the end of the month. So I think making sure you guys all know where those connection points are, not only our own warming spaces, but I was in touch with Union Gospel Mission that, you know, a lot of partners actually have some warming spaces depending on the temperature and like might be different than our standards. So I think this group understanding that ecosystem of what warming space availability is across the whole county will be helpful. So as resources. So, because I don't think the goal is to have people ride the train as a means to keep warm. Is that true, Chief?
Commissioner, County Manager, yeah.
Yeah.
We would prefer to get people to an
Yeah.
official warming.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's our
Yeah.
commitment.
Thank you.
All right, our next slide. So this is just showing some of the connections that we made, in those short 5 months, over 700 connections. And this is reflecting some of the things that, we would, give out with those connections, asking people what they need, and literally carrying these things in backpacks on our backs out there. So most of these are harm reduction supplies, but also just supplies, people may need. And like I said, this is a great beginning of our efforts. We have been really trying to talk about increasing our impact and making those meaningful connections with the residents who are in the greatest need. These are the most vulnerable of the vulnerable out there, in my mind. And so hopefully we can continue this with our partnership. I think it's been really great. And I just want to thank all of you for the support too. I know this has been kind of a pilot project, and thank you for giving us more time to continue on.
Commissioner Virtue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question, just, I'm really fascinated by the Narcan number. Just knowing how large of an epidemic we're going in with the opioid epidemic. Any reason why, like, that number is so small as you're out, you know, engaging with folks in the community? Is it because there's just so many other resources and places where people can acquire things like Narcan that's why the number's low? But just if you had any analysis or assessment on that.
Yeah, Chair, Commissioners, I think these numbers are very underrepresented up here. We didn't start taking down our numbers till midstream of this, so this doesn't reflect the full. Like I said, we had more than 707 connections. Those numbers don't add up to that. Yeah, we distributed much more than that. But there are other places to get it to. Yeah.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for having us here. I will be speaking about social services and our involvement in this project. And many people have spoken multiple times about just this partnership. And truly, I see this as one Ramsey County and one community. This is true work that we are doing with our partners in law enforcement, our partners in social services, and our partners in financial and other areas across Ramsey County. I'd like to take a moment just to point out also, we have one of our staff here, Tamika, from Ramsey County Mental Health Center, and she is one of the individuals that is out regularly with this group. What we're really trying to do is make our system less difficult to navigate. We have a system that is hard when you have a cell phone with very few minutes on it. How do you find out who your worker is? How do you find out and change your address? And as mentioned earlier, we have been able to partner and work together and say who has what resources and who can bring what pieces in, and be able to have the right people out there at the right time. And have we done this? We've done this as conscientiously as possible also. So being able to say financial what part do you roll? What part do you play? 1919 or the Ramsey County Mental Health Center, what part do you play? What part does law enforcement play? And really come together to bring our resources. We are uniquely situated in Ramsey County at 1919 also, because we have mental health, we have chemical dependency services, we have psychiatric care, and our simple location is right on the light rail. And so Tamika and others that are doing this really integral work are able to meet people where they're at out in community to start developing those relationships so that people want to come in. I can't tell you the number of times when I've been out with Hat and the conversation is part of what you saw in that video of how many days sober do you want to? Are you willing to? You tell us when and we will help you get there. And so it's truly meeting people where they're at, helping them with those basic needs and that access to care. Tamika is a perfect individual for us to have the honor of having out there because she creates those relationships. She engages with community. She talks to people and she says, let's set up a good space that you can do more of this work together. And we can really give you the parts that you're missing and that you need and might be hard to get a hold of. I also think of the partnerships within the correctional individuals that we work with in Ramsey County. We've been able to address warrants. If somebody comes up and says, hey, I have a warrant and I'm afraid I don't know what to do with this. We've been able to partner with our partners in corrections and say, how do we clear this warrant? What can we do with our county attorney's office and with those other partnerships so that people can be out in community? They can, if they need to be in contact with their probation officers, we can help to do that connection piece. So what we have up there, I think is a really key part is navigating these systems, building those relationships, and really being out there regularly. So people know where and how to find us. Some individuals have talked about access to basic needs. And that's another astonishing thing is that this group and Metro Transit has their bus that has all of these donated items that community can donate and say, I've got a jacket, I've got this, and let's give this out and let's make sure that people are getting what they need in those moments.
Quick question I just have is that, this is a new, initiative, and it sounds as if what we're hearing is we want to encourage and lift up and have more momentum going forward. How has it been to recruit and encourage and support staff who have been in offices and working remotely into being back into community, and what can we do to support as people transition to do more community-based work?
Yeah, I think I would just answer that, Chair. Commissioners, we have been very focused on our proactive work. This started as an appropriate response initiative, right? Appropriate response is a dispatchable resource. But utilizing those resources and the connections and relationships that we already have to be proactive and not just wait for a 911, right? And so that response is really important, but this response is just as important in encouraging and working with our leadership. I want to give kudos to Amy as the Director for Public Health for buying into this and really being proactive and sending staff out there. Luis Rosario, who's here, has been amazing and who's out there and building those relationships. And Sophia, our Social Services Director, I really needed her to come on board and we explained the process and she just jumped right in. And so, but we have staff who really want to do this and be proactive and be out there. And so we just needed to identify sort of using existing resources and staff who are doing this work and changing the way that they do this out in community. And so really excited about the potential of this and changing that.
One of the things that I find to be the most encouraging with not only this, but also some of our community engagement work that's been happening, cross-pollinating between different departments, is the idea of being able to expose our social services and public health and other outreach services to feel comfortable in community alongside our public safety officers who are modeling that community engagement and that relationship building, but also building those connections with our law enforcement partners so that they themselves don't also have to be a public health, a social services, a housing coordinator, all of that thing, so that they know personally, hey, this person over in this office is somebody I trust. If you call them, you will get the help you need, so that they also don't have to hold 20 different hats and roles as they do their really important work. So I love that. Commissioner Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For some of the referrals, maybe speak a little bit more about that in ensuring that folks actually get connected to the resources, right? Because it's one thing to just say, oh, you can just contact them or go here, but the next step is actually like getting folks to, take that step forward. Yeah, or like holding their hands.
So some of that is waiting for that individual to be at that spot that they want to engage. And being consistent and being present to say, when you want to, we're here. We've been able to at 1919 at our 402 location, so within Ramsey County Mental Health, have walk-in hours. We also want to make sure that services are given with dignity. And that services are done in a space that people feel comfortable and that it's warm and it's away from everybody else's ears. So we want to make sure that we have options to create those relationships in those moments out on Metro Transit and out in community, and then also say, hey, come on in. So Commissioner Jevons, when you mentioned creating those relationships, that's what this is about. And it is Kat, the officer that you watched the video about, having a number. Hey, I know Tamika, I can call her, you can go see her. Being able to create that part so people come in. We have a number of folks that Tamika and others have met out on the light rail and have come into 1919 to say, hey, I do want some of these services. And again, we're uniquely situated that it's a lot of wraparound. So when you're ready and you want to work on chemical dependency, we can work on that end. You have mental health concerns, and there is a really prevalent linkage with mental health and housing and access to other services also. And so being aware that we can help people to get into services, we can also help them to get care for their families. We are a location that offers all of that. So these individuals are tied to other people too. So we do have some small amount of data, as some had mentioned earlier. This is a brand new kind of a program that we're just kind of stepping through right now. But we do have people that are showing up because of these connections to our other locations.
I think just a quick follow-up, just in terms of like access to the mental health services. If the facility, our facility currently closes at 4:30, are they able to access services outside of those hours?
So Ramsey County has a crisis program or a crisis response program also. So as Gloria had noted, we do have folks that are calling into crisis that are also calling into 911 and can be connected. And we have mental health individuals that are responding to those calls within crisis. So yes, they can access mental health care outside of those hours.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and bring us home.
I think we're,
Chair, Commissioners, as we wrap up here, I would be remiss to say that of all the work that we're doing, we have a huge, great support network at the Met Council as well. So certainly appreciate the county manager and all your commissioners' support, but our Met Council members have been a big supporter of this program, so we're certainly appreciative of that. Along with our regional administrator, Ryan O'Connor, who's been a big supporter of the work we're doing, and our Metro Transit General Manager, Leslie Kim here. So I just want to make sure I acknowledge them in this format too, that the work we're doing couldn't be done without their support. So
great. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Nadir, who's gonna close us out.
Thank you, DCM Reyes, Madam Chair, Commissioners, County Manager Becker. It's a privilege and an honor to be here, grateful to lead these wonderful folks in public health and social services. The directors are both here, and just learning about this work in the last couple of months have really been something impactful for me. The word that I take out is patience. We have to really be patient. We have to have courageous leadership in this space because we're doing something totally different. We also failing forward. We're gonna, it's okay to fail, to move forward and actually get to a space. And as you can see, systems are times the biggest issues, but when you break down the silos and you can see people come together like this, it does take a village to move this work forward. And so I'm just very grateful. I want to thank all the presenters that are here, the community leaders, the folks that are out in the field, all the leadership. It does take one community and one village. So I'm just very grateful to be a part of this and looking forward to making sure that this pilot doesn't die down, that this is this initiative, usually initiative starts and then they're shelved somewhere, that this actually becomes our way of doing things at Ramsey County. So thank you for your support and leadership.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Good job.